So I now have some pictures.
You're right. I was thinking this is her legacy.
Just now I had
Just please write down a message so you can write something with this. I like it.
Oh, I will. I mean, you guys pretty much are wide. So you're up right in front. You're up right in front.
Hannah just brought me through this amazing journey. And I have to thank Mrs. McSpadden because so many of the things I wanted to say and I knew I'd forget, she said. And thank you. Because that's truly from your heart. And that is the way Hannah was. There was a picture here, and I don't know if it was ever showing the picture of the collage that my daughter had. Hannah was sitting in a stroller, and there was a dog on her lap. And just remember that Hannah loved to shop. And any place we went, Hannah loved, I loved to clothe her. She had more clothing than any chocolate ever had. And she, just like her mother, she was this little fashion plate. And we'd be in New York City, as unfortunately, I'd always have to fly to New York City. We'd stay in Ronald McDonald's house. And we were on the Upper East Side of Manhattan. And even though I know you hear my accent, you know it's New York, I know nothing about the city. Absolutely never wanted to know anything. But Hannah, just because Hannah was Hannah, brought me to the city many times. And unfortunately, or actually fortunately, our life, Hannah, myself, Erica, and Molly, the four Musketeers, was spent in hospitals. For a little over 7 years, she was diagnosed with neuroblastoma at 19 months old. And within a year of that, I was saved because of her. And I went through this journey. And without Jesus on either one of my shoulders, whichever one he's on, and my daughter, and Hannah, and Molly, I couldn't survive. But what I wanted to say also is, I got to see Hannah's birth. How joyous an occasion that was. My husband and I were at the pier at St. Pete. We were in our boat, and it was a very rough day. And all I was doing is yelling and screaming at him, as I always do when we're boating, because I don't do the thing he wants me to do. And he's trying to secure all these lines so we could just sit at the pier. Wow, we get to go to the pier. It's free. We're going to park the boat. Wow, we're so excited.
Once upon a time, there was a beautiful little girl named Hannah. She lived in a loving home with her mommy and daddy. Hannah was a special girl who from a very young age had medical and physical limitations that most of us will never experience. God didn't cause Hannah's sickness, but I believe he allowed it to show you and I how incredible this little girl and her loving family, and through the hardest circumstances anyone could ever face, still love and trust God. Hannah was wise, way beyond her years, in the physical here and now, but she was also way beyond her years in the spiritual sense. Hannah loved God, and you could see God working through Hannah, even at her very young age.
Jesus tells his disciples, he says, do not let your hearts be troubled. Trust in God. Trust also in me. For in my Father's house are many rooms. If it were not so, I would have told you. And I'm going there to prepare a place for you. And if I go and prepare a place for you, I will come back and take you to be with me, that where I am, there you may be also. He says, you know the way that I'm going. And Thomas, we all labeled the doubter, looked at Jesus and he says, Lord, we don't know where you're going. How can we know the way? Jesus said something that was so true. Probably of any verse in the whole Bible, this one's the most familiar. Jesus looked at Thomas and said, Thomas, I am the way, the truth, and the life. No man comes to the Father but through me. Erica, Fred, grandmother, and dad. Hannah knew the truth. She knew the truth. As we talked the other day, Erica, I thought about Hannah. If there was anybody that lived this verse, it was her. It was short. It was unfair. But Jesus was her way. Even though Hannah never knew a time in her life where it wasn't about needles, or doctors, hospitals, Jesus Christ was her way. Jesus Christ was.
Wow! They just like piles.